Yes, what's up, you guys? Yeah. So you want to hear my story? Just the ladies. You want to hear my story? Just the guys. You want to hear my story? Are you kidding me? I hear that macho stuff. So, ladies, you want to hear my story? Gentlemen, ladies, all together now. I love these shirts. I hope I heard you had a great time in the back to school retreat, and yeah, I missed it, and I know Pastor Lucas was incredible. You learned God's stuff, and that was cool. So once again, you want to hear my story? My story begins in the Bible. So if you got your Bibles, Psalm 139. My story actually begins in the Bible, but it's not like Daniel, but it is like Daniel. It's not like David, but it is like David. It's not like Esther, but it is like Esther. It's not like Eve, but it is like Eve. It's not like Adam, but it is like Adam. And don't make my mic go down. Crank me up there. So it's not like yes. So Psalm, you got your Bible, Psalm 139. And then let me read this to you. We're going to pray first. So Psalm, when you got it, I want you to shout, got it. That's right. So if you don't got it, shout, don't got it. Who's got it? Who don't got it? All right, if you don't got it, you got a Bible, scooch up next to somebody and share Bibles with them, all right? So here we go. Who's got it? Who's got it? Who's got it? Who's got it? Who don't got it? Well, then you need to get it. If you don't got it, you need to get it. You guys are one of my most favorite, if not the most favorite group throughout the entire United States to speak to. You know why? Because you got it. God in heaven, thank you for this time. What a privilege to be here in Gardner and interact with Fuel and Journey about stories. And I pray that you would guide my thinking, guide our thinking, and that we would learn from your word, and that you transform our lives for your glory, for our good. Ask that Christ in your name. Amen. So it begins in Psalm 139, verse 13. Psalm 139, verse 13. So who's got it? It says this, for you, speaking of God, Yahweh, for you formed my inward parts. Now here, give me your eyes. I've never had a chance like somehow to look through the body here, check out the inward parts, but I hear some science teachers love to do that. They love to go, wow, that's the pancreas. Oh, and the pancreas is right over there by the appendix, and the appendix is by the gallbladder, and the heart's over here, although some people have it here. But God formed my parts the way he wanted them to be. And so I'm not a mess, I'm perfect. Exactly. No. So he formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mama's womb. That's kind of a weird thought. That in the Hebrew, in the poetic picture, it's really a picture of a person who's got darning needles and just kind of put me together like that. That God intricately put my body parts together on the inside and on the outside. And I'll tell you more about me, but this is where my story begins. I was knitted together, put together like Mr. Potato Head. Or one of those little creatures that you build, and God did it. And so, in my mama's womb, it says, I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Okay, here it is. Have some fun. You know I love having fun. So, when I say go, go. So you say Chuck. Wait till I say go. It could be go. Go was a dance years ago. So go. I never wanted to be a go dancer. I thought, it's not right. So, when I say go, I want you to say, Chuck, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Go! Chuck, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Like, I'm thinking we got one junior high girl saying that. And she's incredible wherever she is. That's just, yeah. Maybe it's high school, I don't know. So, come on, all together. I want the guys. Men, would you please tell me when I say go that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, or I will bicep you to death. All right, here we go. Ready, go! Why does it sound like this? Chuck, blah, 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 blah. trying to figure out what body part is it. All right, ladies, ladies. First time Linda looked at me, she said, "Oh, he is fearfully and wonderfully made." So I don't want you ladies to say that because this is on tape. I'll go to jail. So, Speaker asks all the girls to say, "You are sexy." No, I didn't say that. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Ready, go. Man, I'm encouraged in my heart. If we would do that every day to one another, man, we might feel better even after we eat too much whatever, right? So it goes on and says, my frame, oh no, wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. And I've learned that throughout time. Taking me some time to go, man, I got a good soul because it's in Christ. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth, which is not like, oh, you were in the womb, in your mama's womb, then you were down under the ground, then back in your mama's womb. My mama would not put dirt, have dirt in her belly. I promise you. But the picture, again, Hebraically, poetically, is that in the womb, it is a mysterious kind of a dark place. If you've ever seen those pictures, science teachers have those pictures. If you've ever seen those pictures, it's kind of a weird place to think, whoa, I was in there. One of those sonogram things or gram things or whatever they are. Maybe it's Graham who invented those things. I don't know. Goes on and says this. It says, your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days, my story, begins here. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there were none of them. So, my story begins in the Bible. God's word says that. Not just about David, but me. I mean, he formed me, shaped me, knit me together into the mysterious parts of my mother's body, which is incredible. And he's got days for me, which is good. If God's got days for you, and I'm feeling good about myself, then those days got to be good days. Even when I'm not understanding all those days, some of those days seem like blah days or bad days or gross days or bummer days. God's got days for me. My story begins in the Bible. My story begins with God knitting me together. Whoa. I think my mother said no, but I think I love my mom. I went to her grave today. She's out there in Olathe somewhere. I went to my parents' graves, and I used to say, Mom, I remember after I was born, I remember coming home from the hospital. Now think about that. She's going, you did not. That's ridiculous. You were just a little creature thing. And I'm like, Mom, don't call me a creature thing. I came out of you. I'm not a creature thing, right? She said, you can't remember that. I'm like, yes, I can. I remember being in the backseat of a big car like a limousine. And I was laying there, and they had all these flowers around me, and everybody was going, Chucky, 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 Chucky. She goes, no, that's somewhere in your older years you got messed up. I said, no, Mama. I remember being back there, and people were just looking at me going, oh, Bibi. And I'm like, nah. And they'd go, oh, Bibi, Mama, Bibi. And I would go, nah. She goes, you can't remember that, you're too little. I said, well, from a human perspective, maybe, but I'm telling you, where did that come from? Drugs? Oh, I hope not, but I remember that. It didn't come from Rice Krispies, maybe Lucky Charms. Too many Lucky Charms will take you to Ireland in a bad way. You eat all those marshmallows. Ooh, could I have another marshmallow? No, that's a mushroom. Nice. So my mother says no. The beginning of my story, God put me together. My mama says no. And mamas normally, they know best, right? Mama said there'll be days like this. Ooh. There'll be days like this. I'm doing this for certain friends of mine in the crowd. Mama said there'll be days like, my mama said no, but I remember that. And then I remember the story continued. And by the time I was 2 years old, I had a very successful business in the baby bottle business, you know. My mother said that I walked at 9 months. Makes sense to me. If I remember the ride home, why not walking at 9 months? I was walking around, I was moving, I was shaking it up. I was incredibly intelligent, but nobody ever found out about that even to this day because it's a mystery, you know? But I remember kindergarten. I loved my kindergarten teacher. You know, all those little years, I missed a bunch of years there, but that's all right. Stories could go on forever. I remember the story right there. I remember. Mama says no, but then I remember kindergarten. I loved my kindergarten teacher. Her name was Mrs. Susong. What a name. I remember that, you know. Hi, Mrs. Susong. I want to sit on the circle today with all my friends and stay there forever. Just playing games on the circle of life. Don't you want to do that? I don't want to do homework. I want to sit on the circle. So we would sit on the circle and play games, and then we would take naps and play games and take naps and play games. You don't get to do that in school. Take naps, play games. They would bring us little cookies and little milk cartons, and then we got to play house. I don't get that. I was 5 years old and they were saying, oh, you're going to get to play house with the little girls. And I was a little boy who was a cowboy. 5 years old, I was watching little cowboy programs on television. Cowboy hat, little pistol. And so I'm going, well, how would I play house with the little girls? I'm a cowboy. I'm like Woody in Toy Story, right? I got my pistol. Honey, sit down or I will shoot you. Honey, make me food. I'll shoot you again. But if you shoot her, there's no food. So you just threaten her. Man, I hope I'm not going to get in trouble with that on YouTube. I really didn't mean you shoot the little girls. But I loved kindergarten. I remember second grade. Nightmares, that's a bad one. Third grade, my third grade teacher, I loved her name. You're going to love her name too. Third grade teacher in Chicago inner city, her name was Mrs. Hickey. The first thing she taught us. Well, you little vacuum cleaners, what's the matter? No. Somebody's going to go, what the heck is a little hickey? Well, go home and ask your parents. You can Google it and you find it out on what's a hickey. But her name was Mrs. Hickey, and she taught us how to sing. In her class, we'd move all the chairs. Third grade, I think I was 8. I was like, I just kept moving through classes too young. But I was, little dude, and we sang. She taught us, she was a great piano player. She taught us how to sing patriotic songs. That's where I learned all the songs. Over hill, over down, as we hit the dusty trail, as those caissons go. We were like little soldiers being built for war, you know? And she would move the desk and make us carry the flag and march. Now, this was during the Cold War when this guy named Khrushchev said he was going to drop missiles on our country. So we were preparing to march and be vaporized because they were atomic missiles, right? But we learned songs. We learned the Army song, the Air Force song, the Star Spangled. So I loved my third grade teacher. It was probably one of the most devastating years of my life because two of my friends moved away. Nothing worse than having a friend move away. He walked in one day, one of my buddies, I remember Bobby. I had Bobby and Gary. And Bobby walked in and he goes, I'm moving. Because our little voices, I'm moving. And I said, don't move away, Bobby. He said, I have to move. My daddy's got a new job. I don't like your daddy, Bobby. Can we make your daddy move and you stay here? And then it was Gary. Gary walks in. I'm moving. Why are you moving, Gary? My daddy got a new job. I don't like your daddy. But I remember I cried. I remember Mrs. Hickey. You got to admit, if you're in high school and you've got a biology teacher or whatever whose name is Mrs. Hickey, I promise you, the student body at Gardner would have a whole bunch of fun with that one, all right? I promise you. I'm not talking physically, etymologically, all right? Although some may think so. But I remember Mrs. Hickey taking me and holding me and just going, and she had a weird little growly voice. All right, it'll be all right. No, you won't be all right. And then I had to go to fourth grade, and I didn't want to leave Mrs. Hickey because she loved me. In fourth grade, my teacher was Miss Nicole. And she was, she's one of those teachers that you look back and you go, what was wrong there? I mean, it's one of those teachers when you walked into the room, you just went, somebody smells in here. I mean, it's just what it was. She had odor. And it was horrible because you spend a whole year in a room trying to learn fourth grade. You walk through the doors, you're like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. It smelled so. But she would give us clay, like big things of clay. And then we would mold little things, like shape little things. And when she would turn her back, we would try to throw them over her head and stick them on the wall. So she'd like, where did those little figures come from? And I'd sit there like, not me. Came from Mrs. Hickey. Then I remember fifth grade, all of a sudden in fifth grade, I noticed, well, that's not true. See, stories, there's so much in everybody's story, and yet God began the story. In second grade, I created my first play. I directed a play, like a theatrical presentation. My teacher came and said, oh, you seem very creative. And she said, would you like to host and put on a little play? And I said, I would. She said, what would you like to do? I said, Robin Hood. I want to shoot people with arrows. Jason's going, I love that, man. Man, I wish I would have known you have like a tanks and weapons out there. Shoot, fire, right? So she said, why Robin? And I said, no, it wasn't to shoot people. But there was a little girl that I liked. Her name was Barbara. Don't tell Linda this story, all right? So, but I liked Barbara because she was just so cute. And I wanted her to be, anybody know the story of Robin Hood? Who was his woman? Maid Marian, right? And I was like, oh, she could be Maid Marian. And it would be so much fun to have her go into the woods with me and run away from the sheriff. So I did my first play to them, but in fifth grade, I know what my point was. In fifth grade, I noticed Little Women. In second grade, I noticed little girls. In sixth grade, I was in trouble. Yeah, I was in. I mean, the reality is, that's the reality. Now I don't know. I mean, my buddies were my buddies, but all of a sudden you start going through this period of middle school, junior high, and you're looking at everybody going, wow, yes, and your body's changing. And then I hit seventh grade, there was more trouble. Then I hit eighth grade, and I wanted to get married. I mean, in my head. I remember the first time a girl kissed me. I didn't kiss her. She cornered. Girls are just a little more aggressive in this part. We were playing kick the can or something, or hide and seek, in the alleys of Chicago. I should have known better. And I got myself cornered in this, like under this apartment building, and she came down. She's like, I know you're there. I'm like, she's coming. And I liked her, but, I liked her, but, she walked right up to me. And I'm just like, and she just kissed me right on my mouth. I was like, oh. And then I graduated from high school. Some of you, if you've read the book I wrote, You'll Do Anything for the One You Love the Most. I gave you some of my high school story in there, and so you know some of that. I lived in a time where it was dupers and greasers, it has nothing to do with they're Italian, they're Mexican. They were just a group of guys that slicked their hair back, wore leather jackets and shoes and these shirts, and they beat you up, and I was the preppy guy. And so high school was a whole new world. 13 years old my freshman year, 13. Our grandson is going into seventh grade. He's in seventh grade. He's turning 13 in 1 month. I was 13 as a high schooler. I mean, I lost everything as far as math and the ability to, I mean, it was incredible. And all through that time, so I had this pressure of these greasers wanting to beat me up because I was a duper. And then all through that time, I went to what was called a youth group, like this. And so I went there and I heard about God. My dad was a pastor, so I was a pastor's kid. Some of you can relate to that. So I had knowledge, 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 and now I'm in high school. And what do I do with knowledge? It's not God knowledge stuff. And then what do I do with this stuff about these guys who wanted to beat me up every day? It was incredible. I was bullied. That word was not used back then, but I was bullied. I was a part of that whole scene. I actually cut school my freshman year I was in youth group and going to youth group, but I didn't find friendship there because, we can be rascals. And my dad was a pastor and I was supposed to be the perfect kid and I didn't want to be the perfect kid. Then I was getting beat up, so I thought of a couple things like, well, maybe croak myself. No. Too scared for that. What about running away? Because I was getting bullied. Horrible. So I walked 15 miles out of Chicago to my brother-in-law's house. He's my brother-in-law now. He was dating my sister, and they were, and I said, somebody's got to help me. I keep getting beat up. So I'm a freshman. I'm 13. I want to play football too. I love football. I weighed about 115 pounds. And guys 270 love to throw me around. Oh, let's pick him up and throw him. Oh, that's fun. Let's rip the clothes. It was horrible to go to football practice in the spring because we trained inside. The big guys who didn't like me because they were greasers, I was a duper, and my youth group, it was no love there. They even picked on you. It was horrible. And I wanted to run away, and I did run away, but these guys would rip the clothes right off your body when you practice. So you ended up practicing not in good shape. It was incredible. My sophomore year kind of blew by, and my junior year blew by, and I played football. Eventually, I said, hey, I want to really, I ended up being co-captain of the team and quarterback of the team. That was my goal, and met a girl, and her name is Linda, and yeah. Some of you know the story. She realized that I was the man of her life. She saw me and she said, what a brain. No. What a body. No. I don't know why. Sometimes I look back and I'm like, why in the world? I had lots of nice hair. God took my hair away during my story too. It just kind of took that away. But somewhere when I was a little boy, going back in my story, I was a rascal in Chicago. There's so much to tell. We don't have time to go through it all. I was a rascal in Chicago. We did all kinds of things. But I heard the story of the gospel. I heard the story of Jesus. But it was presented this way. I was watching TV one night. I'm a senior, but now I'm kind of flashing back. Flashbacks, result of, where'd that word come from? Drugs? Flashbacks. So, but this is just a flashback. I was watching as a little boy, some guy preach on TV. And he said this. I was watching, my parents made me watch. It's like, all right, Jesus died for you. I'm like, all right. I had 5. I didn't quite get it all. And it was like, who wants to go to heaven? Come forward. Who wants to go to hell? Well, think about that. And as a little boy, I just ran to the television. I'm amazed I didn't put my head through and it was tubes back then. It would have blown up and just like, right? But I was like, I want to go to heaven. When you're 5 years old and somebody describes hell, worms are going to eat you. Fire is going to burn you. It will be dark. You'll be screaming and gnashing and thrashing and bashing. It's not going to be a party with the devil. He'll burn right beside you. Who wants to go to heaven? Come to the TV. Well, I'm running, man. I'm sprinting. I'm winning the race, right? So I'm a senior, and I'm thinking, I'm good with Jesus because I did that thing. I ran to the TV. But if you looked at my life, there was nothing going on with Jesus. I went to church, went to youth group. My dad was a pastor, and I did the deal. I did the whole Christian deal thing, and I could fool people, man. I could fake people. I could do the whole thing, but it wasn't a real thing. And somewhere, my senior year, we lost a big football game because of me. And so I thought, I was pretty discouraged. And some of my buddies said, the way you fix that, let's go get drunk. And so we went out, and we got drunk. Probably could have had alcohol poisoning, drinking big bottles of whiskey together. It's not a good thing. And then a journey began that was not good. The story goes on, it was not good, and I thought I was saved, I was okay. At the same time, I was in a rock and roll band, came out of high school and went to community college, but played in this band. I had offers to go play football. I wasn't a horrible quarterback. I wasn't great, but small schools where President Reagan went, guys maybe know the name, Eureka said, hey, come play football here. But I said, no, I want to be a rock and roll star. And so I went on a journey of that, again, the whole time thinking, I'm saved and I'm good, and you have freedom under this grace thing, so you can live life to the fullest. Party. So I did. And I played in the band. We opened for a lot of groups that you would know, but your leaders would know, from classic rock and roll. And we got involved and played, and we got in. If you know anything about some of that scene, the rap scene, the hip hop scene, the rock and roll scene, there's always alcohol, drugs, and immorality attached to it. And all three, in its own way, began to destroy my life. When I got saved not when I was 5. I thought I was, because, I don't want to go to hell, so you do whatever you're going to do. But when I really got saved, my life changed, and then Christian television was just starting. It was just starting. And so they would invite me to come and say, hey, we want you to tell your story, just like I'm telling some of it now. Want you to tell it to students so parents will watch and say, man, look at what happened to this guy. And what happened was this. I started getting asked to speak at groups, and I would tell my story. And when students would come afterwards, or parents would come afterwards, or college students or whatever, they would say, wow, now you guys are going to go, tell us. They would go, wow, you did that? Sin? Wow, you were involved with those people? Wow, you did that and you lived? Wow. And I realized students were excited, or even older, parents even, were excited hearing about the sin instead of the story that began in the Bible, and God in his incredible mercy rescued me. They just wanted to hear, what bands did you play with? Where did you play? What clubs? What did you do? You did this and you lived. You got to remember, you guys, I grew up in the late 60s, early 70s. It was alcohol, drugs, immorality. Not a whole lot different than today. It's worse today. But we were the beginning of it. I saw friends get so sick. I saw friends and had friends that died from alcohol or drugs. I had friends that went to prison. And the story could go on, but I realized they wanted me to tell and sensationalize stuff in my life instead of God began me. God rescued me from the curse of the law. God changed me. That wasn't exciting. Oh, tell all of the sin stuff. So I said, I'm not doing it anymore. And so when I tell my story, when I'm asked to tell my story, and I rarely do it. I may tell stuff about when I was a little boy. We would go steal from the candy store, and we climbed telephone poles in Chicago, and we had our little stash up there. I was probably 7 years old. Where were my parents? I was a little city Chicago urchin. I was the first latchkey kid in America. I had freedom. So I'll tell those kinds of stories, how we would ride on the back of cars and skitch through the streets of Chicago on bumpers, how we go up to the buses and pull the wires off and watch the bus driver get out and chase us down the street. He could never catch us. He was too big, too fat. I would tell all kinds of stories. Maybe stories about how I got into a fight, and a guy pulls a knife on you, or I'm in a club somewhere and a guy pulls a knife. Some of that stuff I will tell. Some of it makes you laugh. Some you go, that's not true. But all of that would have killed me. And I could have been dead. I'm telling you, I could have been dead at any instance or instant. And God saved Linda by his grace and saved me. We were married, had a little boy who's now a sheriff guy and our grandson. And man, I just thank God, you guys, that he rescued me. from death physical and death eternal. And then he gave me the privilege to, he saved me. It was like, gosh, I understood what Jesus did. He took hell for me. And I'm like, I want to learn more so I can help. And so I started going to Moody Bible Institute and got educated a little bit and all that stuff. And somebody said, you ought to work with students. And I'm like, why? They're fun. I said, really? Junior high school students are fun? They're like the funnest. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. And I've loved working with students ever since. And the privilege to talk and speak and interact and share and love and learn from you and hang with you, that's all a part of my story. You have so much to offer. God began your story. He's gifted and given you talents, given you hearts of love. And so I worked, and I was selling and somebody said, you ought to be a full-time pastor. I'm like, what the heck is that? Well, like your dad was. I said, do you make big money? No. Well, could you make big money? Well, maybe no. Why would you do it? Because God's changed your heart. New heart. Yeah, I want to live and pay my bills, but what a privilege to speak to you guys, to hang with you guys, go on retreats. For those of us who've been in canoes together, flip canoes, burn our butts on those seats like, ouch. Hang out and see snakes in the water, do weird things, play weird games, talk about Jesus. So I went and worked with the youth ministry. And then somebody said, well, I think it was my pastor said to me, you ought to be speaking to more kids. I'm like, well, I'm trying to get kids to come. I'm trying everything I can. I'm trying. I want them. He said, no, stop that. Right? He said, you ought to be speaking to more kids like out in the country. I'm like, well, how do I do that? Do I just go to places and go, I want to come and speak to your kids? And they're going to go, we're putting you in jail. Why? I just want to have your kids sit down and be weird in front of them. And my name is Chucky. And it's like, so he said, you're going to do this speaking deal thing. And I don't want to do that. I really didn't want to do it. I had a great, youth ministry, junior high, just like you. You guys have a great ministry and you have great leaders. This is an incredible place. Fuel and Journey, unbelievable. I talk about you guys wherever I go in a good way. I'm like, okay, so I went and spoke, and they said, hey, would you speak over there? And then it was like, would you speak over there? And I'm like, God was doing something. He created me. Remember, it says he has days planned for me, and he gave me opportunity to go talk. And one of the things I love to do, I love to go out with students and talk to other students about Jesus. I remember standing in Baltimore Harbor in Maryland, and there was a group of high school students hanging out together, and we were just walking around talking to people about Jesus. We talked with Muslims, we talked with Hindus, we talked with Roman Catholics, we talked with Baptists, we talked with people who were atheists, agnostic. But you know what? It was incredible to go because Jesus said, go. That's a part of every Christian story. He created you, planned your days, saves you, tells you how to live. Now go tell my story. So I've done that in Maryland. I've done it all across Canada, done it in Mexico, done it in little towns, big churches, little churches. Just the privilege to go, somebody out there needs to hear the loving, graceful, merciful story of Jesus to give them hope. I look back at my story going, it was incredible. I could have died this Friday night or that Saturday night or this Sunday night or that Friday night or this Saturday night when somebody said smoke this and I dropped into convulsions. I could have been dead. And God rescued me. So it's like, man, I love to go and talk and tell and share. And here's the deal. If you're a Christian and, I don't know, like, oh, are you a Christian? Oh, could you tell me? Are you a Christian? Could you tell me? Could you tell me? Did you walk to the television? Did you put your head through the screen? Well, yours is a flat screen. It wouldn't matter. Okay. But you have several in your house. You could bump them, head bump them. And, it's like, I don't know who's a Christian over here. I don't know. I hope you're all Christians. But I know this, if you are, there is no more fun in your life than going to somebody and just saying, hey, could I tell you a story? And they may go, what story? Well, Batman. Oh, Frozen. And I'll sing it. Let it go. Oh, I have gas. Boop. Let it go. There's no more fun going to somebody saying, hey, can I tell you a story? And they're like, yeah, tell me a story. And then you tell them the story of Jesus. And you know what? People may go, yeah, but they won't listen to you. Doesn't matter. That's God's deal. God saved me. My story is grace, love, mercy. I want to pass it on. It's not about all the stuff I did, playing with rock bands on big stages and doing this or that or whatever. He rescued me and saved me. No more fun. More fun than spike ball. It's like, I want to play spike ball forever. It's like it's more fun than spike ball, more fun than football, more fun than dancing, more fun than gymnastics, more fun than teaching, more fun than anything. People say, does it scare you? Here, now listen. And I don't do it for this reason. But it's an adrenaline rush. The master of heaven said, go. He created me. It's like, whoa. You guys have a bunch of students in your schools. I mean, you guys just started back to school. Our grandson Travis, like when we were seeing him throughout the summer because we're traveling, I would be like, so how you doing with, and before he said, Papa, don't talk about school. It's evil. It's like, he just, it's like, don't talk about it. I'm like, no, it's going to be fun. No, don't talk about it, You guys are back. And I know you're there so you can learn, and maybe some go off to college, maybe not. But will you do this? Don't forget about your friends who need Jesus this year. Fuel and Journey is an incredible ministry. I wish God would have saved me in high school. He didn't. He had plans for my life. I think about being in the huddle on the football field and just saying, hey, man, before we go up there to the line of scrimmage where we bump heads and get concussions and talk weird. Play football. Here's the deal. Let's pray and ask God to blow that line open and score a touchdown. God, help us and blow the other team away. Ha, ha, ha. You know what? I wish God would have saved me so I could have had the fun of talking to my friends in school, but he didn't. He chose later. And I get the fun to say this. Guys, come on. Ladies, guys, girls, guys, come on. Don't miss the school year. Just tell the story of what God's done in your life. And the story of Jesus. No greater story. Our son Matthew, he was a worship leader at a church not far from us now. When he was a little boy, Linda sent he and I to go shopping. And so we went grocery shopping. She gave us a list. It was like bam, 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 bam. And I could get myself in trouble, so I won't do it. But I go into a store. I'm like in, I'm out. I've got my goods. I'm done. I don't walk down the vegetable aisle and go, oh, look at all the vegetables. I want to get some of those someday. I'm like, I'm in. I'm out. So Matthew's with me. He's a little guy, maybe 5. And I looked at him and I said, hey, buddy, you want to help me shop? He goes, yes, Daddy, shop. I said, okay, you're going to go on that aisle over there. I don't remember what I told him to get. It could have been anything, but it was like, you go get this one thing for Daddy. Just do it, buddy. We're on a mission. We're going to get this done for Mommy. So he went off. He's running. Right? People are moving and ducking. And I'm like, all right, I'm on mission. I'm going. I'm like, I'm shopping, throwing stuff in. I'm shopping. All of a sudden, I heard over the loudspeakers, if there's a Mr. Beckler in the store, would he please come to the service desk? Not while I'm shopping. Back off. Store person. So I'm shopping. And then I heard it again. Please, if there's a Mr. Beckler in the store, would he please come to the service desk? It is urgent. What could be urgent? I'm shopping. I want to get home. So I'm shopping. All of a sudden, if there's a Mr. Beckler, he must come now. There is an emergency at the service desk. So as I'm like, all right, I'm coming. I don't like people to interrupt me when I'm doing my job. It's like, back off or I'll bump you with my cart. These little ladies who try to push through, I'll push them right over, man. It's like I'm doing my job. Hey, listen, no. Boom. She's fallen, and no. I'm a horrible man. Please help me, Jesus. So, I'm walking up front. I got my cart. I'm walking up front. I'm aggravated. And then I heard some crying. I'm like, that's a little kid. Why is that kid crying? And I got closer. I'm like, boy, that sounds familiar. That cry sounds familiar. Kids have, you guys all have your unique cries, right? 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 Guys primarily cry like, brr. Little boys do, ah. Big guys do, brr. And girls, right? You see me do this before, I think, girls. I had some girls come up one time and they said, we're going to slap you if you do that again. I said, slap away because that's how you cry. So we all got it. So I hear this little voice. And I'm like, and I hear, where's my daddy? And I'm like, what parent would come in a store and lose their child? They ought to be put away somewhere, right? Mean mummies and daddies. Daddies in this case. And all of a sudden I came around the corner. Here's little Matthew, my little buddy. And he sees me and he's like, Daddy! And he's like, boom, whacks. I'm like, all right. I'm like, buddy, what's wrong? He said, I got lost. You couldn't, I like spit it out. He said, I couldn't find you. I was lost and I was scared. Linda never let me take him shopping. No, kid. You will never take him shopping again. You're a bad daddy. Go to your room. Time out for you, daddy. I'm in the corner. Don't forget about the lost. They may not understand how lost they are and what that means. They don't. So important, you guys. Not to manipulate, but you have friends if their heart stops. This year throughout school. And there's going to be some of that probably somewhere in America. Don't miss the opportunity to love your friends with Jesus. They're lost. And somewhere in the inside, they may be crying emotionally. Their families are messed up. They're hurting really bad. Maybe abuse. Who knows? Tell them Jesus' story. Love you guys. Father, thank you for this time. Thanks for the privilege to be here. I thank you that my story begins in your book, the Bible, that you created me and knit me together for me. And I thank you that you saved me through your love, mercy, and grace, and that you've given me the privilege to talk to students and tell your story. Hang with these students. What a privilege to be with Fuel and Journey. Love them, love them, love them. Oh, God, bless them, that they would not forget about their friends, their schools, their teachers who need to be loved with the story of Jesus this year. Thank you. And I thank you and thank you, not flippantly, Father. And I pray I've not hurt anyone or, I pray in any way that's not happened. And I have not embarrassed you. I thank you for loving me, being patient with me. But thank you for this night together. Thanks, Jesus, in your name. Amen.